Revealed. How one unexpected firing sparked a 12-month journey to life-changing redemption. Tom's world crumbled the day he walked into the garage and was given the news. The soft hum of engine repairs faded into silence. Just like that, his life as Maplewood's trusted mechanic slipped through his fingers like motor oil. He was 38, a husband, a father, and a man whose identity was tied to the family business. Now everything felt hollow. As he drove home, his thoughts rumbled louder than the engines he was used to fixing. How would he tell Melissa? How would he face the kids? The days that followed were a blur of despair. Even in his own home, joy felt locked away. Bills stacked on the kitchen table like towering waves, mocking his need to be strong. Tom plastered on a smile, but he felt the tightening knot in his chest grow more painful with each passing day. As he watched Melissa tuck the kids into bed, he wanted nothing more than to scream out his fears. But instead he remained silent, burying the burden deep within. One afternoon, he found himself wandering aimlessly along Maplewood's familiar streets, feeling like a ghost in his own neighborhood. That's when he stumbled upon the community center, bustling with energy for a volunteer fair. At first, bitterness washed over him. How could he help others when he was barely holding on himself? But an unexpected flicker of hope sparked. What if, just maybe, extending a hand could help him heal too? Tom hesitated at first, but as he interacted with folks from all walks of life, veterans sharing tales of honor, single mothers juggling dreams on tight budgets, elders knitting warmth into their community weighing their own burdens, something shifted inside him. He realized vulnerability could forge connections. Slowly, he began to share his story, the knot in his chest loosening as he realized he wasn't alone in his struggles. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. However, Tom's newfound hope didn't last long. As he delved deeper into volunteering, he uncovered stark inequalities lurking beneath Maplewood's surface. The warmth of community was interrupted by unsettling truths. Biases and social injustices struck him hard. One evening at a town meeting, tension thickened the air as a council member dismissed concerns from hardworking neighbors. Tom's heart raced as he felt the call within him to stand up. In that tense moment, as grandstanding echoed, Tom rose. The crowd hushed. Would his voice, once muffled by defeat, finally ignite something real? He fought to steady his breath, knowing that his words could challenge the very fabric of their town. As he spoke, the air crackled with anticipation, the stakes climbing higher with each breath. Would his vulnerability resonate as strength, or would fear silence him once again? The scene hung heavy in the balance, leaving Maplewood on the brink of change or complacency. What would the community decide? Tom felt the weight of all eyes on him as he stood, heart pounding before the crowd. The murmurs faded into an anxious silence that wrapped around him like a tight embrace. For a moment he struggled to find his words, doubts gnawing at him like angry squirrels. He had spent so long feeling invisible, and yet, here he was ready to speak out. I know what it feels like to be forgotten, he began, his voice trembling at first but gaining strength with each syllable. I've stood in line at the food pantry, turned away due to misplaced pride, and ignored when I needed help the most. Faces in the audience shifted, surprise sparking curiosity. Here was a man they had known for years, sharing pain they had never expected him to carry. He paused, catching a glimpse of Melissa in the back. Her eyes, wide with surprise, filled with unshed tears, mirrored his own fears and the courage he was trying to summon. He thought of his kids, their laughter fading into whispers of uncertainty that had invaded their home, as if their father had stopped being the strong, invincible figure they once saw. This wasn't just his story. It belonged to every person who felt marginalized or unheard in Maplewood. Tonight, he continued, I'm asking you to see what's around us. We can't just go on living in a bubble of comfort while others fight to stay afloat. If we band together, we can change lives. The murmurs changed, slowly morphing into a chorus of agreement, several heads nodding along. Tom's heart swelled. Could it be? Was this the moment his town needed? A chance for unity instead of division? For once he felt less like a mechanic and more like a force of change. But right then a voice broke through. "We've always done it this way." A burly man stood, arms crossed defiantly. "You're saying we should just throw money around? What's that going to accomplish?" Fuel ignited within Tom, but he took a breath, determined to keep the focus on constructiveness. "It's not about money," he said, feeling the warmth of hope rising in him. "It's about sharing resources, voices, support. It's about compassion and understanding. It's about creating bonds instead of barriers. Just look how we came together here tonight. Ain't this the beginning?" Among the crowd, Tom saw faces petting down their skepticism. His audacity was contagious. Others now stood to share their stories. Each narrative added weight to the growing resolve, layering the air with a sense of unity rising like steam from a freshly poured cup of coffee. And then it happened. A woman, eyes fierce and determined, stood up. "If we're going to make a change, let us form a task force. Let us make plans. Let us hold each other accountable." She was met with applause that echoed through the room like fireworks. One spark had turned into a blazing fire of action. Tom felt energized, a rush of exhilaration washing over him. For the first time in months, the pain in his chest transformed into something else, an invincible strength. But as the meeting continued, with excitement blooming, a shadow loomed over his newfound hope. An unexpected message reached Tom's phone. It buzzed like an alarm, a call from the garage. The owner of the business wanted to talk. What could that mean? Would it be a chance to go back, or dragging him back into the cycle he had just begun to break free from? His hands shook slightly as he silenced the device, looking out at the crowd buzzing with commitment and courage. How could he balance returning to a familiar life and this newfound feeling of purpose? The air crackled with rising potential, yet uncertainty wrapped its fingers around his mind. Tom dared to wonder. Could both paths lead him to redemption? Tom stood at the front of the room, the weight of the moment pressing in around him. The energy crackling in the air was palpable, and he could feel it radiating off the crowd. Each person let their stories fall like autumn leaves, revealing vulnerabilities they had kept hidden. It should have felt exhilarating, and yet, his phone buzzing in his pocket felt like a lead weight anchoring him to his past. The applause rumbled around him, but doubt crept in like a shadow. What was he really doing? Despite the rallying cries, the whispered promises of change, a small voice in his head cautioned him against the tides of emotion. As he let the laughter and cheering wash over him, Tom's mind drifted back to the days when he was the owner of the garage, the sense of control, the small victories that made the endless grind feel worthwhile. He remembered the satisfaction of a job well done, the pride of providing for his family, but that past now felt like a gilded cage. The meeting rolled on, ideas tumbling out, each one more audacious than the last. He watched as plans formed beneath the soft glow of the community center lights, faces glowing with enthusiasm and hope. Yet, with each cheer, a new wave of uncertainty crashed against him. His phone buzzed again. He could almost hear the owner's voice now, blunt and unyielding, a reminder that the world he once occupied was still there, beckoning him back. The thought unnerved him. The longer he stood there, the more it felt like a choice loomed ahead. To retreat back to the comfort of a well-known struggle or leap into uncharted territory alongside a community ready to change. One voice called out, "What are we naming the task force?" Before he could process the question, Melissa rose from the crowd, her voice steady and clear. "How about Maplewood Together? It captures who we are and what we aim to do." That name echoed through the hall, stirring something deep within him. It wasn't just a name. It was an ownership, an embodying of collective strength. He could see it, unity written across each face, a flame igniting in the room. And yet he felt torn. Could he really leave everything he had known behind? The clash of possibilities filled his mind, and for a moment, the noise of the meeting faded into the background. His kids' laughter faded from memory, replaced by uneasy silence. What would happen to them? Would being a part of this new movement mean sacrificing time with his family? Tom stood frozen as the task force was being formed. People were speaking, ideas bouncing around like basketballs on the court. His stomach churned, but deep down, something inside him knew he couldn't ignore that feeling of purpose, that desire to rise above. "Join us, Tom." A voice broke through his reverie as a neighbor called him out, beaming with the same hope that had filled the room. "Let us do this together." Another chimed in, and the crowd roared with encouragement. It was then, in that instant, that he understood the world might feel uncertain, but perhaps it was meant to be explored. With sudden clarity, Tom stepped forward, adrenaline surging through him. "I'm in!" He shouted it, feeling it reverberate in the room. The reactions were electric: gasps, cheers, the sound of relief. But even as his heart felt light, he knew the burden of that phone call still lay ahead. The choice between his past and an unknown future loomed closer than ever. Was he ready to embrace whatever lay beyond this moment? The pulse of possibility thrummed in the air. Tom stared at the thickly woven threads of hope that had emerged around him, each whispering to him that change was not just possible, it was necessary. As cheers erupted around him, a singular thought crossed his mind. Redemption wasn't about erasing the past. It was about courageously stepping forward into the unknown. Would he truly leave behind the garage and its memories? Tom felt his phone buzz again, and a knot formed in his stomach as he glanced at the screen. Another message from the garage. It was time to decide. Would he answer the call, or would he choose to forge a new path with Maplewood together? As he contemplated his next steps, the future felt like it was teetering on a knife's edge. What awaited him on the other side? The cheers still echoed in his ears as Tom stepped back, taking in the collective joy of the crowd. Each smile around him mirrored a spark of hope, and he felt an overwhelming rush of connection. This place, filled with possibility, breathed life into him like a fresh spring morning. Yet, the comforting hum of enthusiasm was tainted by the buzzing phone pressed against his thigh, a cold reminder of the life he had left behind just moments ago. His heart thudded in his chest, heavy with the weight of uncertain decisions. He glanced at the screen again, the name of the garage owner flashing ominously. The memories surged up, crowded and greedy, drawing him back to grease-stained floors and the grind of engines. Could he really abandon all that for this uncharted path? Melissa stood beside him, her eyes bright with admiration. "It's a big step, Tom. You're not alone in this." Her confidence felt infectious. He could see in her the unwavering belief that they could do something meaningful together. But a small voice in his head whispered, "What about your kids? What about the financial security? Would this really pay off?" He clenched his fists, sensing the pressure mount within him. They needed him. The bills, the school fees, the stability, they were all tied to that garage. And yet, a deeper yearning stirred the hope to inspire, to build something that mattered not just for him, but for all of Maplewood. "Tom?" Melissa's gentle voice cut through the chaos in his mind. "What's going on? You look like you're a million miles away." He took a deep breath, letting the noise of the room soften. I keep thinking about my kids. Can I really dive into this? What if it means taking away from them?" Her expression shifted to one of understanding. "That's fair. But it could also mean more time, more presence, not just physically but emotionally. Think about how powerful it would be for them to see you pursuing something you're passionate about." He nodded slowly, mentally weighing her words. The image of his children climbing on his back, laughing as he tossed them into the air, flickered through his mind. Would they be proud of their dad stepping up for the community, taking risks? Maybe this was about more than just him. As the meeting continued, plans poured out like water from a burst dam. There was talk of organizing events to support local businesses, creating programs for struggling families, and even starting a community garden. With each idea, Tom felt the energy build. This wasn't just about him. It was about everyone. But still, his grip tightened around his phone. The divide between two worlds felt like a chasm. Then, just when he thought he had hammered the final nail in his indecision, another message popped up. "We need you back." It hit him hard. The familiarity of the garage was calling him like an old friend, its simplicity offering a deceptive comfort. He felt his pulse quicken, and anxiety swallowed his thoughts. He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to block out the noise of the crowd, the visions of change washing over him like a wave as chaos of his past circled like a hawk above him. "Tom!" Someone shouted, jolting him from his thoughts. "We believe in you." He opened his eyes, the party spirit of the room rekindling that spark within him. Was it really worth losing that unity, that feeling of togetherness, for the safe haven of his previous life? Suddenly, he felt a deep-seated realization crack open. This was about taking a leap, not just for him, but for a community that believed in him, believed in them. As the meeting swelled with excitement and anticipation, Tom sighed deeply, letting the warmth of possibility fill him. But at that moment he knew he had to make a choice. What would he do with the next message that chimed insistently in his pocket? Would he answer, allowing himself to be pulled back into a past fate? Or was it time to fully embrace the future with Maplewood together? The question hung in the air like a dark cloud, ominous yet electrifying. It was a pivotal moment, the choice between old loyalties and a new. Life flickered like a candle in the wind, and just as he reached for that phone, feeling more unsure than ever, someone shouted from the back of the room, "Tom, where do you stand?" Suddenly he wasn't just deciding for himself anymore. He was about to become the heart of this movement. Would he be strong enough to cross that bridge, or would he let the familiar lure him back, despite the promise of something remarkable? His heart raced at the question echoing in the hall. Eyes turned toward him, waiting. A wave of heat washed over Tom, mixing with the adrenaline of the moment. The cheers from before morphed into a roaring choir, urging him to answer, to make a choice. "Where do I stand?" he heard himself ask, more to buy time than to provide clarity. The room hushed, and for a split second, everything felt suspended. Melissa's gaze held him steady, encouraging without saying a word. She stepped a fraction closer, her eyes reflecting the flickering lights overhead, each glimmer urging him toward the unknown. Around him, faces showed a mixture of hope and expectation, making him acutely aware of the path he was about to carve for himself, and for them. "I am still figuring it out," Tom admitted, his voice steady but still tinged with uncertainty. "Feels like there's so much at risk. I want to be all in," but he trailed off, glancing at the phone again, the familiar name standing out like a beacon of the past. The silence in the room deepened, thick with anticipation. He could almost hear their collective breath held. Tom knew he couldn't keep stalling forever. He thought of his kids, their laughter, the evenings spent helping with homework, the overwhelming joy of family game nights. Would they look at him differently if he chose this path? What would it mean for their future? "Tom, you've already inspired us by being here," someone from the crowd piped up. "Don't let fear hold you back. If it's about the community, then we're all in it together." Their words wrapped around him like a comforting blanket, thawing the icy grip of doubt that had taken hold since he walked into the room. The community's belief in him sparked something deep inside, lightening the burden he hadn't realized he'd been carrying. "I need to think about what this means for my family," he finally said, the words coming out softer but stronger with conviction. "But I also want my kids to see me chase after something that matters. I want to show them the power of believing in a dream." The crowd erupted into murmurs, and for a moment, he feared they might judge his hesitation. Yet their expressions reflected understanding, as if they had all grappled with similar choices. "Then let us do this together." Melissa's voice broke through the noise, ringing with enthusiasm. "We can build something amazing as a team. You're not just a business owner. You're a leader." Tom took a breath, feeling the weight inside him shift, the uncertainty morphing into a flicker of excitement. Maybe it was time to let go of fear. He remembered the late nights at the garage, surrounded by engines and tools, the pride of solving problems and making things work. But now, another vision began to form, one where he wasn't just fixing cars. He was fixing lives. "I'll commit to Maplewood together," he announced, the words spilling out like the bubble of energy that had built in him throughout the evening. The tension in the room shifted, replaced by an infectious excitement. Cheers erupted once again, this time mingling with a sense of unity that felt so much greater than himself. But even as he shared a smile with Melissa, the phone buzzed relentlessly in his pocket, each vibration a knock against the reality he was leaving behind. What would happen when the garage owner reached out? Would he face the familiar rejection, or the undeniable call to return? As he looked around at the faces illuminated by hope, Tom realized the journey was just beginning. He was standing at the edge of something that could transform not just him but all of Maplewood. "Just remember," Melissa said with a grin, picking up on the unraveling tension, "this is just the first step." And just like that, everything shifted. The air was electric. Possibilities stretched out like an open highway ahead of him. Yet, deep inside his heart lurked an uncertain question. Would he be able to withstand the pull of his past? Or would his newfound commitment to the community withstand the ultimate test? The night felt alive with promise, but as he stepped into this new path, the real challenge was just beginning. Tom stepped back from the podium, his heart still racing from the rush of his own words. The cheers from the crowd faded into a dull roar, replaced by the pounding in his ears. Suddenly, the weight of the moment settled heavily on his shoulders. He had made his choice, but now reality loomed, full of uncertainties and old temptations. Melissa's hand found his shoulder, grounding him. "You did it, Tom. You took a stand," she exclaimed, her infectious energy bringing a smile to his face. Yet he felt the buzz of his phone again, a constant reminder of the world he was leaving behind. "You know it's going to be okay," she added, her voice lowering to a softer tone. "This is the start of something beautiful. Let us get through the chaos together." As the crowd lingered, still buzzing with excitement, Tom turned to his kids. They were at the very back, their eyes wide with a mix of pride and confusion. It dawned on him how much this decision impacted them too. Would they understand that this was about more than just him? Would they feel the shift in their own lives? He gestured for them to come forward, and they hesitated, exchanging glances. Eventually they made their way to him, each step hesitant yet hopeful. "Dad, are you really going to do this?" his daughter Lily asked, her voice small yet potent. "I am, baby," he replied, kneeling to meet her eye level. "I want to show you how important it is to chase your dreams. I want you to believe you can do anything." Lily's face brightened at his words, but his son Alex remained skeptical. "But what if people don't support you? What if it doesn't work?" Tom felt a pang in his chest at the vulnerability of his son's question. That was the fear he had held on to for so long, and now it was staring back at him through Alex's worried eyes. "Sometimes people don't understand. It's scary. But when we face fear together, amazing things can happen," he said, hoping to instill a sense of courage. The murmurs of encouragement around them grew louder, the community rallying behind this moment. Tom felt warmth spread through him, like a soft blanket over cold skin. Eventually, the crowd began to disperse, their evening of inspiration drawing to a close. Yet Tom remained rooted in place, contemplating the ripple effects of his commitment. Each cheer had ignited a flame in him, but was he strong enough to fan that fire in the face of doubt? "Let us grab some ice cream," Melissa suggested, pulling him back to the present. "You need to celebrate this win, and so do your kids." With a grateful smile, Tom ushered his children toward the nearby parlor. The familiar bell above the door chimed as they entered, blending into the cozy atmosphere. They sat at the booth under faded photographs of old Maplewood, laughter and sweet smells swirling around them. As they dug into their sundaes, he could see their spirits lift. This was a turn toward a brighter avenue. Yet, every bite was laced with the impending weight of the expected call from his past. "Do you think you'll talk to Mr. Harris?" Lily asked innocently, interrupting his racing thoughts. Tom sighed, the depth of the question sinking in. "I don't know, honey. Part of me wants to, but I've made a promise to you all. It's time to see how far I can go without looking back." But as he said the words, doubt snaked back in. Could he truly leave it all behind? Would the pull of his past be stronger than the dreams they were now starting to forge together? As they left the ice cream shop, laughter trailing behind them like a sweet fragrance, Tom's resolve wavered with each step. Somewhere in the depths of his pocket, the phone buzzed again, a relentless reminder that he was about to step into uncharted territory. "Tomorrow will be a big day," he told them, forcing a smile, yet feeling the weight of his uncertainty. Little did he know, the call he was so apprehensive about would soon change everything once again, shifting not just his future but the future of Maplewood as well. What lay ahead wouldn't he just test his commitment, it might unravel everything he thought he knew about himself. Would he rise, or would he fall into the familiarity of the past? The sun rose the next morning, casting golden rays that danced through the window, illuminating the kitchen where Tom sat at the table with his coffee. He stared blankly into the swirling cream, feeling the quiet heaviness that wrapped around him, as if he were buried under layers of doubt. Today was the day everything would change, but he couldn't shake the feeling that, just as easily, everything could unravel. Lily and Alex bounded down the stairs, their energy contagious. They were both ready to tackle the day head-on, oblivious to the storm brewing in their father's heart. "What's for breakfast, Dad?" Alex asked, his eyes bright with anticipation. "Let us make pancakes," Tom replied, forcing enthusiasm into his voice. As he moved around the kitchen, pouring the batter onto the griddle, he reflected on how this simple action, the smell of melting butter and rising dough, felt like a comforting mask for the chaos beginning to stir within him. Once breakfast was served and devoured, there was no more hiding from the reality outside their cozy little bubbles. Tom's phone buzzed again, more urgent this time. The realization sent a chill down his spine. Time was slipping away, and soon he wouldn't be able to ignore the decisions lying in wait on the other end of that screen. "Do you think we'll do something fun after school today?" Lily asked, excitement bubbling in her voice. Tom paused, his heart squeezing tight. "Maybe we will. Let us keep that a surprise. But make sure you don't forget your homework," he added, injecting levity into the moment. But as they cleaned up breakfast, Tom felt an emotional tug. He wanted to be the dad who delivered joy, who inspired them to chase after their dreams. But how could he do that if he himself felt so lost? The kids rushed out the door, backpacks bouncing with their every step. Tom stood by the window watching them go, feeling the bittersweet wave of their childhood slipping away. They were growing and he was tasked to grow with them. Yet the weight of uncertainty still loomed like a shadow, bringing memories of old failures that crept into his mind. With a deep breath, he reached for his phone. The buzz he had been avoiding buzzed again. He had one choice, one call to make, and it felt monumental. He glanced at the time. There wouldn't be another opportunity like this. He dialed the number, heart pounding as he waited for it to connect. "Mr. Harris?" Tom's voice trembled slightly as he spoke. It was almost a whisper, but he pushed through, desperate to steer this ship into the unknown waters. If there was any time to have this conversation, it was now. "Tom. It's been a while," Mr. Harris replied, his voice full of warmth but also caution. "I saw your speech last night. Quite the stir you've caused." "I wanted to talk about that," Tom said, determination flooding his veins. But as they spoke, the conversation took a turn he hadn't anticipated. Harris laid out the ramifications of Tom's newfound courage, lines drawn not just in the community, but in the company he had once deemed secure. What seemed like a step toward freedom could very well lock him deeper into his past burdens. Tom felt a wave of panic rise. The familiar thrill of activism turned thick and heavy. "Are you saying that my stance could hurt the company?" "Yes, Tom. The stakes are higher than you might think," Harris responded, the urgency in his tone unmistakable. Tom's breath caught in his throat. Everything he had built, everything he had promised his kids, it was all hanging by a thread. How could he truly fight for change if it meant jeopardizing their future? Finally he hung up, feeling the weight of the call like a stone in his chest. Was this the fight he was willing to take on? The playful banter of his children echoed in the back of his mind, a reminder of everything that was at stake. As he stared out the window at the world moving on outside, Tom knew he faced a pivotal moment that would redefine his understanding of responsibility and ambition. The door behind him swung open, and Melissa stepped in, a knowing look on her face. "You okay, Tom?" she asked softly. I didn't realize how tangled this would all become," he admitted, the edges of fear creeping back in. But before they could dive deeper into conversation, Tom's phone buzzed again, piercing through the tension in the air. He hesitated, a sense of dread pooling in his stomach. What if this call brought more complications? What if it pushed him even further away from what he had promised his kids? His heart raced. Today was supposed to set the stage for everything to come, but it felt like a tightrope walk over a cliff. Would he find his balance, or would he fall into the depths of uncertainty? Something would shift today, he could feel it. But the question lingered. Could he navigate these turbulent waters without losing everything he held dear? As he answered the call, Tom could only hope that whatever lay ahead wouldn't tear apart the fragile happiness he was trying to build for his family. The call ended abruptly, leaving Tom standing in the kitchen, the silence thick and palpable. He felt as though he was teetering on the precipice of a decision that could alter the course of his life. Melissa's question hung in the air, her eyes searching his for answers he didn't have. "Tom?" she pressed gently, stepping closer. The worry etched on her face mirrored his inner turmoil. What just happened? He took a shaky breath, trying to summon the clarity he craved. "I don't know, Mel, it's all spinning out of control," he said, running a hand through his hair. The morning sun illuminated dust particles in the air, and for a moment, he felt lost in their slow dance, mirroring his chaotic thoughts. What did Mr. Harris say? Tom glanced out the window, watching the kids ride their bikes down the street, carefree and innocent. Their laughter felt like a distant echo, and yet it tugged at his heart. They're not just upset about my speech, it could cost me my job. A heavy silence fell. Melissa's brow furrowed. What are you going to do? You can't stay silent, not after putting yourself out there like that. What if I do speak up and it blows up in my face? He countered, the fear creeping back in like an unwelcome visitor. I've worked hard to build a life for us. I can't risk losing everything, my job, our stability. It's too much. She stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. And what about your happiness, Tom? What's the point in working so hard if it makes you miserable? If the kids see you sacrificing yourself for something you don't believe in, what kind of example does that set? The word struck him hard. He had always been the dependable father, the one who put his family's needs above his own. But in that moment, he realized he felt like a ghost in his own home, drifting through life without purpose. I'm trapped, he admitted, his voice breaking slightly. All I want is to protect them, but I can't ignore my own beliefs either. Melissa exhaled slowly, empathy washing over her features. It's not about choosing one over the other. Find a way to do both. Stand up for what you believe in without losing your job if you can. Use your influence for good, but do it thoughtfully. Tom began to nod, inspiration creeping in through the cracks of his despair. Maybe I can take this a step further. Organize people, rally support, but do it quietly so no one's blindsided. Maybe even reach out for allies, people who care. Use the power of the community. That's the spirit, she said, a glint of excitement sparking in her eyes. But it's going to take courage. Are you ready for that? As doubt lingered in the corners of his mind, Tom drew a deep breath. I don't know if I'm ready to face this kind of fight. But if I stand back now, what will I be teaching the kids about standing up for what's right? Melissa smiled gently, squeezing his arm. Exactly. Sometimes courage is not about the absence of fear, but acting in spite of it. Just then, another buzz echoed from his phone. It felt as if the universe was pushing him forward. He glanced at the screen to find a message coming from an unknown number. Who is that? Melissa asked. His heart stuttered as he opened the message, revealing a single line. We need to talk. It's important. The weight of uncertainty returned, heavier now, pressing down on him like lead. Who could this be? What new storm was approaching? The stakes were rising, and with them Tom's feelings of hesitation. He turned to Melissa, a new fear in his eyes. What if this pulls me deeper into a fight I'm not ready for? Then you'll handle it, one step at a time, she assured him. Tom's pulse quickened again as he stared at the screen, wondering if this message could hold the key to everything he was grappling with. Did he dare to uncover what lay beneath the surface? His fingers hovered over the reply button, uncertainty clashing with a flicker of hope. As he pressed it, the moment felt electric. But the real question loomed larger. Would this conversation pull him closer to redemption or push him further away from everything he cherished? Tom sat frozen for a moment, the brightness of the screen reflecting in his eyes, the words pulsating like a heartbeat. He felt as if he was standing at a crossroads, the path ahead dark and uncertain. Melissa watched, her hand still resting on his arm, an anchor in the storm of his thoughts. Who could it be? She whispered, concern weaving through her voice. I have no idea, he muttered, more to himself than to her. What if it's someone who knows about the speech? What if this is just the beginning? Melissa squeezed his arm tighter. You won't know until you respond. Tom nodded, taking a deep breath. His fingers finally moved, typing out a quick reply. Who is this? What do you want to talk about? As he hit send, an uncomfortable chill washed over him. What if he had just opened the door to something he wasn't prepared to face? The seconds stretched out, each tick of the clock on the wall feeling louder than the last. He glanced up at Melissa, searching for reassurance in her gaze. She met his eyes with a soft smile that gave him a flicker of hope. Whatever it is, you've got this, she assured him. Just then his phone buzzed again, breaking the fragile tension in the air. Quickly he grabbed it, staring at the new message as anxiety knotted in his stomach. It's about your job. Meet me at the park at 3 p.m. It's urgent. Tom's heart raced. The park? Why there? His mind spun as images of his kids playing in the very same park danced in his head, laughter ringing in his ears. The idea of something so serious happening in that space, a place meant for joy and innocence, felt wrong. What does it say? Melissa urged, moving closer. They want to meet at the park. About my job, he replied, his voice barely a whisper that a shadow crossed Melissa's face. This doesn't sound good. He nodded, feeling the weight of impending confrontation settle on him like a heavy coat. What if they want to fire me? Or worse, what if they want to silence me about the speech? Her eyes narrowed slightly, concern transforming into determination. Then you go. You listen. You figure out what they want. This is your moment, Tom. Don't let it slip away. He considered her words, their gravity settling in his core. And if it gets messy, then you clean it up. You're strong enough for this, she said firmly. Just remember, whatever happens, you're not alone. The fear in his chest melted a little at her reassurance. He finally felt the adrenaline pumping through his veins, urging him to act. He could take a stand. He could navigate through this uncertainty while still protecting his family. Tom glanced at the clock. Time was slipping away. I have to prepare, he said, forcing a breath to calm the storm brewing inside him. I need to gather my thoughts. Want me to help? Melissa offered, her voice steady. Yeah, he replied, grateful for her presence. They could brainstorm ways to handle whatever was coming his way. As they sat at the kitchen table, he laid out his options, his heart still racing but feeling a little more in control. Every scenario felt real, the what-ifs crashing like waves against the shore of his mind. Before he knew it, they were deep in conversation, the weight of his impending meeting drawing them closer together. Suddenly a realization struck him. What if this person is an ally? What if they want to support me? The thought blossomed with hope, an unexpected ray of sunlight through the clouds. But just as quickly, doubt crept back in. Or maybe it's a trap. With each step forward you'll know, she said softly. You're more prepared than you think. Tom nodded, absorbing her words, finding comfort in their connection. As the hour approached for their meeting, a mixture of excitement and dread filled him. He had a choice to make. To face this unexpected twist with courage or retreat into the shadows of indecision. He stood up, ready to face whatever came next. The conversation in the park looming ahead like a storm waiting to break. What awaited him as he stepped into that uncertain moment? Courage would be essential. But so would clarity. Would this be the push he needed? Or would it lead him deeper into a struggle he wasn't prepared to win? The park was alive with the sound of laughter, children chasing each other, the rhythmic thud of basketballs bouncing, and the distant tinkle of an ice cream cart. But Tom hardly noticed the beauty of it all as he approached the meeting spot. His heart thudded loudly in his chest, each beat a reminder of the stakes he was about to face. Clutching his phone tightly, he spotted a familiar figure by the swings. Mr. Harris, the owner of the garage. Harris was leaning casually against a metal pole, arms crossed, looking oddly relaxed. That calmness felt like an iron weight in Tom's gut. As he drew closer, Tom's breath caught. Would this be a conversation about his future or a talk that could unravel everything? Tom! Harris called out, flashing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Glad you could make it. Yeah, Tom replied, forcing a smile of his own. Thanks for reaching out. They exchanged awkward pleasantries, but the tension was thick. Harris gestured for Tom to take a seat on a nearby bench, where the weight of the moment felt even more pronounced. Look, I've been thinking about our conversation, Harris began, his tone shifting to something more serious. Last night created ripples I didn't expect. Your speech was bold, maybe too bold. It put us under scrutiny. Tom felt a pang of guilt gush through him. I just thought if I didn't speak up, nothing would change. It's important to advocate for those who feel voiceless. I get that, Harris said, rubbing the back of his neck. But there are ways to fight for change without jeopardizing what we've built. People could lose their jobs over this, Tom. Your words could have consequences. A heavy silence settled between them. The sunlight streaming through the trees only heightened the sense of foreboding. Tom's thoughts raced, processing the implications. Are you saying you want me to take it back? To silence my voice? Not exactly, Harris replied, his expression softening. I want you to consider how you frame this issue. We can work together, advocate for change, but in a way that protects our jobs. We can make it work for everyone. Tom's heart sank. It felt like he was being handed a lifeline made of chains. And what if I refuse? What if I choose to keep fighting? Listen, it's not just about you. There are hundreds of families depending on the decisions we make. Harris's voice was calm but steady. I don't want you to feel undervalued or unheard. Listen to them, but also protect yourself, protect your family. If you choose this path, it doesn't have to destroy everything. The weight of the world pressed down on Tom's shoulders. He thought of Lily and Alex, their laughter, their wide-eyed belief that their dad was invincible. Did being brave mean risking everything? What I've realized, Tom started slowly, is that my fight isn't for me alone. This is about being a voice for the unheard. If my actions affect them, then they deserve to know they can stand up too. Harris sighed, his walls visibly softening for the first time. I respect that, Tom. But be careful. Change doesn't come easy, and sometimes it requires compromise. As they sat back in silence, the reality of his choices started to settle within. Tom's heart raced as clarity washed over him. Maybe the idea of fighting didn't have to come at the cost of tearing his life apart. Maybe it held the promise of transformation for him and his community. He looked Harris in the eye, a fresh determination sparking in his chest. I won't back down, Harris. I want to be a part of the solution, but I have to do it authentically. If my voice inspires others to rise up, then so be it. I choose honesty over comfort. Harris studied him for a second before nodding. Then you're willing to walk this line carefully with intention? Yes. Tom felt an undeniable sense of relief wash over him. A reawakening. Good. Harris stood, extending his hand. Let us collaborate then. You'll have the support of the garage. And we'll announce a community forum. We can create constructive dialogue. Tom shook his hand, the gesture feeling less like an ending and more like a beginning. Thank you for understanding. I wasn't sure I'd find that today. As the two men moved away from the swings, Tom glanced back at the park. He could see his children laughing, blissfully unaware of the crossroads he had just negotiated. Deep inside, he knew the journey ahead would have its bumps. But now he felt ready. Ready to balance the weight of his responsibility, his desires and the dreams of his family, a path illuminated by the promise of unity and purpose. With a new sense of resolve, Tom headed home, ready to share his thoughts with Melissa and the kids. This was more than just a decision. It was about resilience, hope, and forging a new narrative for Maplewood together. As he walked away, he held his phone tightly, not as a tether to his past, but as a tool for future change. And now, if you felt our journey through Tom's struggles and triumphs resonate with you, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the community of dreamers out there. Comment your reactions and feelings about how Tom chose courage over complacency. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to share it now. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let us keep this movement alive together.